Hey guys, this is Chris from Deus Ex Machina. This is my part 3 of my reviewing my reviews series. I don't know if the other ones were successful at all because I'm recording all these basically within a couple of days of each other. I'm going through my final year, which is 2019. Obviously, I'm still doing a couple of reviews in 2020, as people know, but this was the point where things started to go, I wouldn't say downhill, considering some of my best videos came out in 2019. But the amount of content definitely did decrease. For one, I was no longer employed, so I didn't get regular income, so I had to write for a living. I ran my Kickstarter in May. It raised a lot of money, enough for me to work full time. And unfortunately, that became priority. And I started to have a policy where I was only going to do writing when it was going to be financially beneficial. It's not true. I actually do a lot of stuff, but I do some complimentary writing if I think it's furthering my career in some way. And this Dice Tower certainly wasn't going to be furthering my career. And there were some other problems. One is that when I ran my campaign, I was kind of hoping that, considering my connection with the Dice Tower, they would allow me to plug my Kickstarter because it's a game, although it's a role-playing game. And no, they didn't. They wouldn't let me plug it. They wouldn't plug it themselves. Kickstarter Roundup, the crowd surfing segment. I was trying to get them to mention it. They didn't. Z was doing crowd surfing by himself, and he mentioned the Starfinder one. And I was really annoyed by that because he will mention a role-playing game, and Tom was like, well, that's his prerogative. I'm like, oh, God damn it. I just wanted one friggin' name drop. It's not too much to ask. And I was at that point, I'm like, one of the reasons why I was doing all this was to kind of increase my exposure. And the one time I really needed the most exposure, they didn't come through. So I was very upset by that. And this was one of the reasons why the amount of content I was producing was starting to wind down, especially after the campaign resolved. Anyway, let's get into it. This is Dread Draw, one of the worst games I ever played. This is the one that for some reason which is weird because at this point, this is our third video Nicole and I have done, and a lot of people were positively commenting on it. But for some reason, Dread Draw rubbed some people the wrong way, and they started coming after me. It also probably has the second, maybe the most views that her and I did together, which probably is the reason why we got negative comments. This is a absolutely disgusting game. It is ugly, mechanically. We both hated it. So the funny thing was is that the reviews that Tom would probably want more, the standard format, is the one people hated the most when I was doing it. So it's one of those situations where if I do the videos that they want me to do, I'm not going to have anyone liking my videos, so why would I bother? This was the worst game we've ever reviewed. There's also the point where I decided, regardless of whether I got a title or not, if I didn't like the title, I wouldn't review it. Because I would get a couple free titles from a couple other people, and I sent them a video saying, look, I'm not going to review this title because I think the game is really, really bad, so I'm not going to do it. And I just stopped because I'm a publisher, and I felt it was unprofessional for me as a publisher to bash someone else's game, despite the fact that I have very, very strong opinions on what I think is good and weak game design. Onto that, to another, I wouldn't say controversial, but me just being goofy me again. And I wanted to do a dinosaur dualosaur because I had the complete Extreme Edition. I had all the expansions. So I wanted to do what is obviously a complete Dinosaur Island review. And it opens up with one of the strangest and admittedly dumbest opening skits ever. So much so, I think this is the last time I ever did a skit. Yeah, this is the last time I ever did a skit. Nicole has all this Lego. She had a bunch of Jurassic World Lego. So I decided to play around with this Lego toys to begin with. I admit it was intentionally meant to be stupid. And that's why, for some strange reason, I'm faking a really bad Australian accent to make me sound like Jim Jeffries, and obviously I'm not pulling it off. I admit it's really dumb, but that was the point. I almost did it as a way to get haters off of my video before I got into the videos. Like, okay, I'm going to put something that's obviously annoying just to get those morons off my video. And I think that's one of the reasons why I don't have as many downvotes, because I think people just went, screw this guy, and went off and then didn't bother downvoting it. And this one also had a long opening because I was going into how much I loved dinosaurs. And yet, for some reason, this was also a 25-minute video. That seemed to be my magical area. And a lot of really fun cutaways. I love the opportunity to talk about this fantastic museum in Drumheller, the Royal Tyrrell Museum, and it's a fantastic place. If you ever have a chance, go to it. Another negative comment: more options are a bad thing. Please try to get to the point next time. And I was just getting, yeah, if only the video didn't warn you about the preamble or feature some form of advanced feature where I tell people. And at this point, I had my defenders. People would jump on and saying, you know, if you want brevity, you watch Tom. If you want completionist, holistic coverage, something along the lines of shut up and sit down, then you watch something I do. So it's one of those situations where I'm telling people, like, look, if you're going to criticize, you're in the wrong audience. And I thought I had found my niche, not realizing how that I was about to butt heads with the fan community one more time, because I would definitely exercise their tolerance in a couple months. A lot of positive comments. I really enjoy reading these. 70 upvotes, 29 downvotes. I love the stupid extreme cutaways of Homer Simpson. Now, it just shows you how unpredictable these things are. So we're on to Deep Space D6, and this was right after the heels of Dread Draw. So I was expecting a lot of negative comments. I didn't get it. There are a few, 24 downvotes is kind of on below average, 91 upvotes, 5,000 views. And I think one of the reasons this happened was because Deep Space D6 was a Kickstarter game. It was kind of popular. It is a solo game, which people are really into. There's a couple of things about this which is kind of interesting. One is that this was the last time Nicole did a video with me. She wouldn't be on you wouldn't see her on camera, I think, from then on. I don't think she ever pops up again. And also, once again, March 5th, I was moving into my Kickstarter area. I didn't really have a lot of time. I wanted to do Deep Space D6. What's really interesting is that the Dice Tower got a review copy, and they did an unboxing. And Z Garcia said he was planning on reviewing Deep Space D6, and he never did. And I think the reason why he never did was because I did mine first, and I think he didn't want to bother doing his review because I had beaten him to the punch, and I already had quite a few views. So I think that's the reason why you didn't see Z Garcia doing his review, was because I had beaten him to the punch. This one was once again playing off my binging with Babbage style, where I would record all the gameplay footage first, then write it. It's fun because you get to have some fun with me kind of commenting on my mistakes. But with my pre-scripting from this point on, you wouldn't see this again, especially on my videos that were less about jokes and more just being more the traditional review style. Okay, let's get to it. So here is my review for this war of mine. I open with another discretion warning, hoping to get people out of the video. This one has pretty good views, but also has one of my highest downvotes, period. 53 downvotes, 78 upvotes. Still not the greatest ratio. That would come later. This year was a bizarre day. Bizarre year. I was most proud of the videos I created this year, but also generated the most controversy, which is probably one of the biggest reasons why I think I was on the wrong channel for this type of content. I think this War of Mine video is fantastic. This opening, by the way, is actually the teaser video that 11-Bit Studios did for the game. So I've played with it a bit. I faded it out a bit more. I added the board game onto the title card, trying to mimic that graininess onto the effect as well. The music, however, some people may recognize it because all the music in this video is actually not from this War of Mine. It is music I actually own. It's the soundtrack to Amethyst, which was one of the stretch goals for my Amethyst campaign back in 2015. Originally, I had recorded all this audio traditionally, and I just did the standard narration throughout the whole thing. And then about 2 days before I was about to upload it, maybe a day before I uploaded, I decided I want to do something a bit more artistic. So I re-recorded the whole thing with a camera on me. I took it and made it black and white. And obviously I could have recorded it just like this, just recording, like I could have written the dialogue behind and stared directly at the camera. But I decided to play off of Good Night and Good Luck, the Edward R. Murrow film, and actually show me reading off a printed script. That was another artistic decision, which people also had a problem with. Like, I don't understand why people were getting so negative about this. It's simply some guy's opinion. Because I was analyzing games as art in themselves. I was trying to get a debate, and a lot of people were dismissing the debate because of the video. So I go into a huge explanation on the history of the game, history of art in general. And funnily enough, I make an argument that board games aren't really art because they serve a function other than being art. The idea, the Roger Ebert argument being that artwork has to be artwork first and not have a second and not have another purpose. And since games have a purpose of trying to be defeated, same as video games, they can't be art. Now, that was the argument I was trying to make. I actually don't believe in it. I do believe board games can be artistic, just the same way as movies and video games can be artistic. But I was basically saying that I understand what Roger Ebert was saying. But then using that same kind of logic, I said that this War of Mine still isn't art because it makes compromises to be a more enjoyable game, even though it doesn't go far enough. So it made it a more annoying game, which would make it more like art, but then they didn't go far enough for it to be art. So it fits into this really hazy, undefined, muddled. I love Daystott, so I threw it a homage to Daystott. That's why you're seeing Daystott. As a little bit of a video there, because I want to play on that off of that. So I did a lot of this stuff. Scrolling, a lot of text inserts, a lot of quotations. This is, I think, my longest video at 47 minutes. Viticulture is at 45 minutes, so this is the longest video I've done at 47 minutes. And like I said, I still have this drive to put out an hour-long video, and it'll hopefully be Robotech, which will happen at some point. I was trying to create videos that were enjoyable on their own without the game title itself being why you'd watch it. Thankfully, despite the negative reviews, there ended up being a lot of positive comments. This was actually really appreciated. Best review of this War of Mine I've seen. In your assessment of art, sir, you're absolutely correct, yet somehow I completely disagree. That's a fantastic comment. Another fantastic review with meaningful insights, witty commentary, fitting anecdotes, wise correlation. Don't ever stop doing reviews. Thank you. This is the most unique review of a game I've ever watched. Feels like a Burns War documentary. Thank you. That was another great comment. I concur. Masterful review. This is a very interesting topic in general. Lots of people that got the point. And someone mentions Beginner's Guide. Yes, I'm actually angry I did not bring up Beginner's Guide. I should have brought up the Beginner's Guide. The Beginner's Guide is probably one of the greatest examples of video games being art. It is a perfect representation of that. I throw in a couple of jokes about Amethyst. I throw in a couple of images of Amethyst because, once again, if I can find a way to reference myself, I'll do so. About 90% of the footage you're seeing of this War of Mine is my playthrough. I actually played the game numerous times to get all the footage that I wanted. And sometimes I played the game for a couple hours just to get a little bit of extra footage. There are a few clips that are actually taken from online, but the vast majority of the footage you're seeing is actually my own gameplay. Okay, so after that dark turn, I'm moving into probably my even though it doesn't have the most views, it's probably my most successful video, which is my Nemesis review. So let's go into that opening right off the bat. So this opening, I am so proud of this opening. With the fake credits. And I figured I would absolutely filter my audience. If they can manage to sit through this 2-minute joke, then they're okay. They can watch the rest of the video. I am not talented with computer graphics or any visual effects. I do have access to a pretty high-end editing software, but for me, it's about just cutting. I can't really do high-end any visual effects. That's why you don't see, like, even what Shut Up and Sit Down does, because every once in a while they'll do something kind of cool, technical. I wouldn't even do that. So this one, it's a 4K image, a really high-resolution planetary image that I'm simply moving in the background slowly. It took me hours to find the right image, the one that actually had a planet with a blackened center with actual star fields on the other side. And then I found the font, the closest font, not even 100% close, but the closest font I could find to the alien font. Then I did this in Photoshop, and then I systematically sliced certain sections out to get to those lines, and I saved them all as transparent layers So what I'm doing here is simply just layering these transparencies over top of each other, so as you eventually assemble the whole thing. But like that's all it is. It's just one image being moved in the background with a 15 frame transparent slideshow in the front. That's all this is. It took a long time. It took almost a day to get all this working, to get the timing right. The problem, of course, is that because the Jerry Goldsmith soundtrack is so iconic, it is immediately copyrighted by Fox, because Fox goes after anybody that uses any of their footage. So I knew that the video would get demonetized, and I knew that we would have a problem with it. So I was trying to find a way to get the music to work. It didn't. So eventually I found the music from the Alien Isolation video game. It does not flag copyright. So what you're hearing is music from the Alien Isolation video game instead, because it doesn't flag copyright, which is too bad, because if you play the original Alien opening, it actually fits a bit better. So Tom had a problem with this video, to be perfectly honest. He, initially, because everything was kind of black and white and kind of monochrome, fading into him being full color was a bit jarring for me, so I had him half frame and then black and white, similar to what I did with this war of mine. He didn't like that. I don't know why he had a problem with it. I don't know what, maybe thought I was marginalizing him in some way, but I like fine. So I literally had to go in and do the video and make him full size and full color. He also thought those quotes at the beginning were my thoughts and thought that I was being very argumentative. And I was like, no, if you watch the video, you know that I don't agree with that. So I had to go in and do that section over and do little air quotes and put that little line and say, these were quotes taken off of Board Game Geek. And he said, yeah, okay, that's good then. So that video went up. I didn't have any problem with any of the content. It's just that opening he had a little bit of an issue with. This is obviously one of my longer videos, 28 minutes, not my longest video, obviously, because obviously we just came off of this war of mine. And I thought, once again, considering the downvotes I would get, even though I have 50 downvotes with this one, I have 378 upvotes, so it's more than enough for me. This is definitely a better ratio. This is another one that's very front heavy. I go for about 10 minutes talking about the history of sci-fi horror, and I still absolutely insist that you can have a sci-fi or space horror without it automatically being a ripoff of Alien. That being said, is Nemesis a ripoff of Alien? Of course it is. But I'm trying to make the argument the fact that people are just saying that this game shouldn't exist, that's blatant ripoff, and they're trying to say that this game is, they're giving it a negative review because it's such a blatant ripoff. I'm like, no. Like, in what world can we not have nice things? That means every time you see Star Wars and say, you know what, he didn't pay Flash Gordon for the rights to do this. It's a blatant ripoff of Flash Gordon. He should be ashamed of himself. No one thinks that. And no one should think that whenever people are doing like Pandorum or something like that. And that's ultimately the point. Nemesis, we go, Nemesis ripoff of Alien. No, it's not. It's a ripoff of Pandorum. But most people haven't seen Pandorum. Pandorum, the storyline of Pandorum is almost exactly the same as the storyline for Nemesis. Nemesis is like, oh, well, Nemesis is about people who wake up with no memory, which is not Alien. They have differing objectives, and they're all basically against each other, which is not Alien. They just have Ash, that's it, but everyone else is basically together. They wake up, the monsters are already there. That's Pandorum, that's not Alien. They never go to a planet in Nemesis. They never go to a planet in Pandorum. You have to go to the engine core because they don't know if the engine core is working, and then you have to repair the engine core. That's Pandorum. That's not an Alien. So yeah, they grabbed the monsters from Alien and then crammed it into the story of Pandorum. But they never say this is a blatant ripoff of Pandorum. Of course not, because people who are ignorant don't know any better. There's a few people that kind of, the only negative comments I got were people were just saying like, you say it's a great game and yet you spent 20 minutes trying to criticize it. Yeah, because I'm always going to criticize a good game. Because the only thing that finds me frustrating in a bad game is a fantastic game that could have been perfect, but it misses the mark because of a couple of very weird mistakes. Let's see some of these comments here. Pandorum was awesome, great video. Also love the annotated intro, thank you. Wow, great job. I love your review. Excellent. This one probably has the most positive comments, and I think that's why I love this video the most, because it had so many. I don't know why. It's because like this is like the Thing. The Thing video was based on the same structure as this video, and yet both of these got so many upvotes. So I'm thinking, you know what, maybe I'll just do that, which is the reason why I want to do this big Robotech review. And yeah, the Robotech review is going to be a half an hour of just me talking about the franchise before I even get to the board games, which is really too bad it's not going up on Dice Tower, because I think I would really piss people off in that video. They see a 65 or 70-minute video about the history of Robotech. But I think the right people will go, oh yeah, because people are just going to browse and go, what's this 74-minute video on Robotech? I'm not even going to click on that. But the right people will probably go, oh yeah, I'm ready to sit back and watch a feature-length video on the history of Robotech. But yeah, a lot of positive comments. Very entertaining review, great review, thumbs up. Love the intro. Really amazing. It's just, I loved reading these. This is better than any financial compensation I could have gotten. I love Nemesis. I had no idea what I was getting into when the video started. Fantastic review. Fantastic. I agree 100% with this review. This is by far the best review I've watched. I'm sure you've watched better ones. Way like this new format. Finally, a good, real review. You had me at Dune. Love your reviews. Love the game. Great review. Really good. I mean, just surprising. Just the amount of love that came out with this title. Okay, the painting break. That was a joke. I was going to do that with my Nemesis Part 2, which I don't think I'm going to get to, unfortunately, because I was going to do a Nemesis Part 2, which covers all the supplements. But I have a painting break for that one as well. I'm not a very good painter. I will admit it. So I'm not showing off my painting work as always being fantastic. I know people that are way better than I am because I don't do layering. I don't do non-metal metals. I do paint the way I was taught, which is a base coat, then a standard color, a dark wash or a black wash, then 2 to 3 layers of increasing lightness. So usually a slight dry brush, and then another dry brush for specific areas on a lighter tone, and then I'll take a fine-tooth brush and specifically draw in higher areas with it just a little bit more, as you're seeing here. A lot of people don't paint that way. The first problem is that a lot of dirt, not dirt, but particles would get in the paint because I'm adding like 4 or 5 layers because I'll paint the base, standard paint, black wash, 3 or 4 coats. Eventually this graininess starts to occur, which is always going to be a problem with my painting style. And as a result, there's a bit of lack of, almost the detail gets washed out. But I still enjoy it. It looks good when you're holding it in your hand. They don't photograph very well. There are definitely better painted miniatures available. If you go onto the Nemesis forum, you'll see dozens of people who have better paint jobs than I do. So onto Titan Dice. This one got a few views, but I think this was our first video. It was actually a pretty good video, but then we did Master Commander, which everyone freaking hated. This one has 48 upvotes, 13 downvotes. And this is at Dave's place. You're seeing Dave's backdrop, so that's his game collection behind. He has, I think, 400 games to my 2. But he also has a lot of titles of the same thing. Like Shadows Over Brimstone, he's got every supplement of Shadows Over Brimstone, just every single thing. So he has a lot of completionist packages, and I don't. I have a few completionist games like Nemesis, but not 14 games. The reason why we did Titan Dice was that Dave absolutely hates Titan Dice. It's a game he packed on Kickstarter, and he absolutely hates it. And he wanted to do a review, and I wanted to bring him on Dice Tower. And because of such the negative comments on Master of the Galaxy, we kind of decided not to keep on doing it, and I went back to my original format. Because each time I tried to do a new format that was a little bit easier to do, people were hating on it. So I said, you know what, I'll go back to doing my original style, but because of my publishing content, you're not going to see videos as often. So with that, we're on to Master of the Galaxy. This was not very well received. It still got a pretty good view count, 2,400. Now they're saying Chris and Dave, but the video says Chris Diaz, so at least you're doing that right. And yeah, people went after us for cringeworthy video of attention-seeking self-appreciation. But there were a few people that were commenting that they missed my old style. So that was one of the reasons why I went back to doing that old style. And then my next video that had that old style had someone saying, thanks, Chris, thank you for coming back to your old style, because people had wanted that style rather than me talking from a back wall. So the format they hated was the one that the Dice Tower wanted. Irony. Dave had spent, at this point, months ranting about how much he hated Master of the Galaxy. So when we were doing this review, he didn't want to say anything more because he felt he had said it all. And I'm like, dude, this is your point to shine for 15 minutes, and then he didn't. So finally, I felt that it was me because I hadn't commented on it because I hadn't played the game until that moment. I think I was butting heads with people more in 2019 than I was in 2018 and 2017 because for some strange reason, some people had it out for me. So I thought, honestly, I think a lot of people are probably happy that I've left the Dice Tower because they didn't like my content. And I'd say I'm happy to be gone from there because there were so many issues I was going into it, especially at the end of the year. I mean, this is a 31-minute video for about one game. This should not have taken that long. I should have cut myself down a lot because, once again, I was on an ADHD rant again, and I needed to stop myself. And I don't know why I didn't cut myself down. To get myself down to like 10 minutes, just to say what I didn't like and then move on. So that out of the way, we're going on to Pandorum. This one was kind of going back to my original style. This was a Kickstarter game I received. It's a very strange title because Pandorum is on a movie. That word didn't exist. This one's also weird too because it doesn't actually open up with my name in the review. It goes in for 7 seconds and it fades into the review, which is very weird. Like, that's the only time it's ever done that, because apparently they didn't bother putting my name on the title, whatever. It opens up once again with a big long joke, because we're talking about Pandorum. I originally had Pandorum credits, similar to the Alien one, and I was like, are we doing this again? I was slowly forming the word, and I felt that joke wouldn't land very well, so I cut it out, which is too bad, because it's a nice little fake credit video. But Pandorum is a big title, and I just kind of cut it out. But it's a very strange thing that they named this game after the movie, but in no way took any of the storyline from it. It's a dark space game, but they made a competitive area control out of it instead of a cooperative horror game. It's a really weird mishmash of genres. I like it because it's a good game, but it's a very strange game because it's a dark space game with an area control element. No negative comments on this one, mostly upvotes. And I bet you the 12 downvotes were probably the people that carried over from the previous review. Funnily enough, I say crap and they don't edit that out, but okay, whatever, moving on. So there's this moment where I kind of pause and I stare at the camera, kind of looking all sad. I can keep my eyes open for a long time, but to extend it, I did slow this down by about 20% just to get it a bit more so you never see me blink. But yeah, no, I literally blink a millisecond after that cut, so I got right to the very last second. This is the one that actually had those professional lights, by the way. So I actually have really professional movie lights, which is the reason why sometimes it looks a bit washed out. But the lights are also, they can have a diffuse pattern. You can tone them down. So I was actually playing with it. So I think this is one of my best looking titles when it comes to video quality. All right, let's get to this one, viticulture. And I seriously don't understand the hatred for this video. I still don't. It's got my highest ratio, 71 upvotes and 62 downvotes. Like, a lot of people really hate this video, and I don't understand. And I think it came down to a pure misunderstanding. So many people seem to think I did this video to show off the fact that I'm a big wine connoisseur and I'm showing that off. First of all, we're driving in a frickin' Nissan Rogue, which is not an expensive car. The wine community in the Okanagan is 6 hours away from where I live. So what are your thoughts? And we had just gone to a convention. We were hitting up a bunch of wine locations. Obviously, I did my Lord of the Rings Journeys of Middle-earth review right after this. Like, I was recording it at the same time. So there's a point where we were driving down south and then we drive up the other direction. And that's because we did the footage for Lord of the Rings and then we came and did the footage on the way back up. That's the reason why you see Jason Peacock in both videos. They were both recorded at the same time. One section talking about viticulture and then the other section talking about me surprising my fiance with this trip to Middle-earth. But there are obviously positive comments, but the negative comments, once again, like pretentious much. Like, how is that pretentious? Where is the pretension in visiting a local wine region to film this segment, right? I have visited these wineries numerous times. I did this video as an excuse to show off how amazing BC wine culture is. I was doing this as a free advertisement for this beautiful region in British Columbia where you can get to all these wineries. I wasn't being paid. I wasn't showing off. I was showing them off. So I don't know why. It's not the vineyard visit that feels pretentious to me as much as his presentation style. He was clearly trying very hard to let us know how cultured, intellectual, and important he is. He is thinking the fact that I drink wine is me showing off how cultured, intellectual, and important I am. But then we have some positive comments. Very excited to see my home area, the Dice Tower. Kamloops guy here. Glad you got to enjoy the Kelowna area. There's so many. This was awesome. My family and I had dinner at Mission Hill. Nice rundown. This had clarified some confusion. Creative approach. I like it. Also love the way you wove viticulture review into your wine tour. And that was the intent, to talk about this beautiful wine culture in British Columbia, and then to weave a review. I did the exact same thing with Grimslingers, and yeah, nobody nailed me against the wall for claiming that one's me being pretentious. But for some reason, people thought this was pretentious. Some people had a problem with the mobile camera, and that I will agree. I was trying to do these sections away from Nicole, so I wasn't bothering her with all this, and I was very social, kind of camera shy and gun shy, trying to record stuff in the tasting rooms. Not that anyone would have a problem with it. None of them would have had a problem with it. But I decided to do it outside instead of inside, which is the reason why most of the later footage is all outside. But what I should have done is I should have propped it somewhere and recorded it rather than have me walk. Because, and on top of that, I'm always recording using this Steadicam. Made by Steadicam, it's on my reach here. And that Steadicam is what I usually do for my videos, which is the reason why my video footage on my table is so smooth. I didn't take that with me. I took a standard wand with me because the wand is easier to deploy. The Steadicam is kind of a clumsy thing. It's kind of weird looking. I should have used that. I should have just bit the bullet and just used it, because then it would have been smoother and would have been steady, and you wouldn't have gotten this jitteriness. Which is really amazing too with this video is that I recorded so much footage. There was another 5-6 minutes at Mission Hill. And sometimes I recorded the same lines of dialogue multiple times in multiple locations. I picked the ones I like. I tried to keep them in sequence. They're not entirely. They're kind of like I go south and I turn around and go back north. That's why my shirt changes all the time. So let's talk about the story. So there's this thing coming up about me having dinner with Denise Crosby. So I mentioned it's a long story. So anyway, the whole story with Denise Crosby, since this is going on my home channel, if you visit my Prince Gastronome channel, which is the other channel I do things on, my wine tours aren't on this channel, but if you find my Prince Gastronome channel, you'll find all my wine stuff on that channel. And there was a time where I got to hang out with Denise Crosby. So I've mentioned that Denise Crosby, I mentioned I help run Northern FanCon. What do you think? I help run, it's like a 1%, and then 90% is like one other guy. So I help with Northern FanCon. I help with their Artist Alley and their comics. So I get a chance to brush with a lot of celebrities. I got to talk with Kevin Smith. I got to interview a lot of people, especially in the first 2 years, not so much. Last year, I got to talk to everybody, which was really cool. I got to talk and interview Alan Tudyk, Amy Acker, and you can find those videos on this channel on Deus Ex Machina. So I had met and talked with Denise Crosby from a previous year. I was in Kelowna, and while I was in Kelowna, this was not this year Kelowna, this was the previous year. I was going down for the Kelowna Fan Expo, and I was invited by a local friend of mine, Brent Marshall, who was inviting Denise Crosby to come on a helicopter ride. So he was supposed to go with somebody else, the guy who runs Northern FanCon. He wasn't there, so I went down there, so I got invited instead. So it was me and my fiance, Denise Crosby, and this other guy, Brett Marshall. He takes us in his helicopter, which he actually owns a helicopter corporation in Kelowna. And then we go and we hit up all these wineries. Now, unfortunately, Kelowna was plagued by forest fires. Like the entire province was plagued by forest fires. So if you watch that footage, it's completely smoked over, unfortunately, because Kelowna was just being slammed. Everyone was being slammed with a lot of heavy smoke from all these forest fires. So so we bounced around and we ended up with Mission Hill. We had a beautiful, beautiful dinner, and we had a great conversation at a time with Denise Crosby. The next day was the Kelowna Fan Expo. And because they didn't really have anyone to do the interviews, I was asked to do the interviews on the Q&As. So I got to do a Q&A on Chase Masterson from Deep Space Nine. She's awesome. And then Denise Crosby. And Denise Crosby and I had already had this chemistry from the day before. And we grabbed a bottle of wine. We had 2 glasses. So we were standing up on the Q&A. We had a full tall glass of wine. And we were burning through. And I was like sipping because I didn't want to drink all the wine. And I realized when Denise was refilling her glass, she would go gulp and then she'd put it down. So she was a professional wine drinker. I bow to her expertise on that one. That's the whole story about me and Denise Crosby and how I was able to have dinner with Denise Crosby on a helicopter trip. I didn't pay for it. It was just because I happened to have a couple friends. It's nothing terribly special. So on our first wine trip, we hit up about 60 wineries in 8 days, which I know is completely psychotic. And we brought back about 200 plus bottles of wine. We would go the following May with some of our friends, hit up a bunch of more wineries. And then this trip here, which was just last year in 2019, and we were doing that because we were going to the Fan Expo. Then we were going to hit a couple of wineries. We were going to stay in Middle Earth in this place called the Hobbit Hideaway in Bridesville. And then we came up and hit up some more wineries on our way back. So we hit up another 22 new wineries on top of a bunch of old ones. So all this footage is basically of me on this trip. And I had recorded, and I was smart. I was going to do the same thing, the same mistake with Grimslingers. I wrote down all of my dialogue ahead of time. So I have them on very small cue cards, and they're taped, or I'm holding it right next to the camera. Sometimes right next to, like the lens is right here, but I can stare at my face here because I'm pointing it here. So I'm not staring at the camera here. I'm staring at the camera here. So I'll try to keep the paper here so I'm somewhat facing the camera and staring at it, even though I'm actually staring at the words. And that's how I would do all of that. This is before I started losing weight because I think I'm my heaviest in that weight as well. I did reach out to Jamie Stegmaier beforehand. I was hoping he was a wine guy. Turns out he's not. And I was going to hopefully get him an interview with him on camera and talk about his experience with wine drinking. And once he came back and said, "I don't drink wine. I'm not really much of a wine connoisseur. I just took the theme." I was like, "Well, throw that idea out. That's not going to work." The other idea I was going to have is to use this format to do a big comparison between viticulture and vinhos, which is another big game. It's on my bucket list to get this game, vinhos, because it's focused on Portuguese winemaking, and I'm Portuguese. And I think that if I was to do this again, I would make it a comparison video, but then it would certainly be over an hour long. The footage in the window, by the way, that was recorded on the trip. We were staying at an Airbnb in Kelowna, and her and I were playing viticulture. We took viticulture with us, and we picked up that supplement at the dollar store place at the beginning of the video, and we wanted to play it. So we were playing that on an ottoman in our Airbnb. And it's actually one of the few times that Nicole beat me at that game, because I usually win that game, and she actually won that time. So we take a cooler, and we pack all of our food with us. We just do charcuteries. We drink the wine, we have bread, we have meat, we have jellies, and that's it. We're spending enough money on the wineries as it is, so I really can't spend money on expensive foods because the food at these restaurants are a lot. So when I recorded this, I actually hadn't gotten Tuscany yet, and when I said I realized I wanted to do a complete essential review, I had all the small boxes, but I didn't have the big box. I didn't have Tuscany. So I realized that the reason why this video got posted in September, even though it was recorded in August, was because after I got back home, I wanted to do stuff about Tuscany. So I ordered Tuscany, it arrived, we played a game or two to get used to how the system worked. And because thankfully there's one winery in Prince George, and I thought it'd be kismet to go there, so I went there and I shot a bunch of stuff about Tuscany all around Northern Lights, which is a local winery. So that's when we go home. So that's why certain things are a bit out of sequence, because I go through the time period here. Then I do my stuff at home, which happens in early August, or late August, early September, and then I go back to record the rest of my trip. So yeah, the big tap on at the end of this thing is a big 8-minute montage about all the other wineries. That video is actually old. This is a completely separate video. If you go to Prince Gastronome's channel, you can see this video. And it's just a montage of all these wineries I went to. And shows you the number of locations there are in that region. So I took that video and I just slapped it to the end of this one. So like I said, no one's going to call me out on it. Like, this is a video that you stole from your Prince Gastronome channel. Like, yes, there's very few, or if any, commingling of people between these two channels. From that, we're moving on to Anomaly, and once again, we get to a low view count video. This was, oddly enough, a free title. I was given this by Starlight. I'd done Alien Frontiers and Skyway Robbery, so they knew who I was. This is when I started reaching out to companies to see about getting actual free games. See which ones responded. Some of them are like, no, we don't do that. And some of them are like, I don't know who you are. And some of them are like, oh yeah, absolutely. So Starlight, obviously I did Alien Frontiers. At this time, a lot of these people thought I was going to post these on Dice Tower, and the vast majority there are, but now unfortunately the last two freebies are going to pop up on my own channel. If they haven't already. Tapestry is already up. So this is Anomaly. This was a 1 versus all game. It is really weird. It's not popular in my circle, so much so that it's out of my collection already. Like, we won't play it anymore. I thought it wasn't bad, but I also won the game, so it helps. So once again, Dice Tower edits me. We have a clip from Guardians of the Galaxy where Mantis says, "Hi, Drax." And he says, "Damn it." That "damn it" was muted out. Once again, this is a clip from a PG-rated movie, and yet they won't allow it. So we're on to my Lord of the Rings, Journeys of Middle-earth. Another video, which is also a board game vacation, because it was shot at the same time as the Viticulture one. Ironically, this one doesn't get nearly as much hate. It also hasn't been viewed as often. It's only got 2,600 views compared to the 4,000 views with the other one. But right off the bat, like, when I posted the review for Viticulture went up, and I hadn't noticed it for a couple hours. And by the time I went there was this massive swell of downvotes already. And what was amazing, though, the video was only up for maybe 45 minutes. So there's no way people could have hated that video if they had watched it all. There was just a bunch of reflex hate right off the bat. And that kind of creates this inertia where other people, just fish, just this lemmings following the crowd, just decides to unlike it without even thinking. So by the time we get to the Lord of the Rings review, I was expecting that same thing to happen, and it didn't. We got a whole bunch of upvotes and very few downvotes. And yet these videos are very, very similar. They're both handheld cameras. They're both kind of shaky cam. They both start the same way. They start with a clip of Jason Peacock, and then we have the footage of us going into it. So we don't talk about the game for
This is funny thing.
what,
So,
10 minutes?
No.
10 minutes? 40 minute review? Takes 10 minutes to get into the video? We don't get the hate. Like, it's so inconsistent, because there's a certain group of people that hate me and they try to get that inertia going. So positive comments. Well, this was amazing and a great review. Can't wait to start a camping with my wife. I really enjoy these vacation and review videos. I originally, the drive up sequence was originally a lot long. I had that whole thing recorded, and I tried to cut it so it wasn't as boring, but her reaction is so priceless. It's fascinating because I let a little of her F get through. And you think I have a potty mouth. My fiance is way worse than I am. And yeah, she says, "What the hell?" No comments, no editing. Inconsistent. Probably because, once again, those people long time ago had stopped looking at my videos and they don't care. Or maybe my fiance can say hell and I can't. Probably because she's off the cuff, so it's okay for her to say it. But when I script a hell, it's a bad thing. I was also trying to be more cinematic, so I was really desperately trying to keep the camera stable, which is really difficult. This is such an amazing. I really wanted to showcase this location. Oddly enough, last time I talked to him, it was for sale. It's pretty expensive because you buy the entire farm for like $2 million. But you generate so much revenue from this Airbnb on its own, it makes it worthwhile. And but this would be, maintaining this one building, this would just be your entire job, right? They give you a free bottle of wine. Even watching this video now, we want to go back. I don't know, maybe we'll do it for our honeymoon. Maybe we'll go back for our honeymoon, we don't know. But it's also 25 minutes out of town. So we didn't want to bother leaving. So we were there, we were there for 2 nights, and we get there, we sleep, daytime. We spent all day there, and we weren't at all bored. I mean, we played Journeys in Middle-earth like 3 times. No, I think we played it 4 times. It was one of the best vacations we've ever had. And yeah, oddly enough, there's a freaking board game in there. I was almost tempted to leave my board game. Almost tempted to say, here's a better one. The whole place was infested with grasshoppers. If you walked across this kind of dirt plain, you could just see the ground just jump as these grasshoppers would fly off. And at night, it was pitch black, a proper black, not a city dark. I mean, a proper dark where you literally can't see anything in front of you. These things were also shot out of sequence. We're doing the unboxing, which was on day 1. But when we do this little time-lapse video, where the music kicks in and you see this time-lapse thing, this is actually the end of day 2, and we're playing our 3rd and 4th games. But I put this at the beginning to kind of do the time passes, but this is actually on the end of day 2, not the end of day 1. This is another one where I recorded a lot of superfluous scenes, sometimes double scenes. Like, when I'm introducing the game, I did that in 3 different locations, and I only used one of them because I was trying to find. This is another one I was doing off the cuff, but I think I was a bit more controlled. But even then, I had to cut so much out. I must have had, like, this is a 40-minute video. I bet I had 3.5, maybe 4 hours of footage I had to go through to get it to this length. So here's a funny thing. So a few months after this video went online, I spent a lot of time complaining about the fact that this game is too difficult for what it wants to be. It's called Journeys in Middle-earth, but because a good chunk of the game is about racing through, in the same way Mansions Madness, you want to race through as quickly as possible. You're on a time crunch. And that makes sense for Mansions of Madness. But in this game, putting the time crunch doesn't make any sense if it's called Journeys in Middle-earth, Journey through Middle-earth, Journeys in Middle-earth, not racing through Middle-earth. So they finally came out with Adventure Mode a few months ago, which was just a patch on the app, and we play that from now on because we want to have the journey and we don't want to be pressured with the freaking clock, which is so arbitrarily included. When I'm holding the camera outside of the building and I'm sitting down on one of the chairs and I'm just ranting, I cut so much out of that. I was probably talking for 40 minutes because, once again, if I don't script myself, I will just ramble forever. So I felt that people were going to nail me against the wall because at this point the viticulture review had already gone up. I was like, I'm going to get just raked over the coals on this one. So I went in there and chopped as much of this out as possible. So this was originally maybe 3 times longer. And then I had this section with the coal, which was shot before this previous scene. Me doing a review, I recorded this before the stuff I recorded outside. So once again, almost repeating myself. On my Prince Gastronome channel, I think it's on Prince Gastronome, I don't think it's on this channel, there's a longer version of this video, which basically has a lot of the same cuts, but without the game, but shows a lot more of the surrounding area. I love the Hobbit ring joke. I had to throw that in there. So now we're on to, I think, the last video I've done for Dice Tower, which oddly enough is also one of my most praised videos. It's 104 upvotes to 9 downvotes. And this was a straight comparison of Chronicles of Crime and Detective Modern Crime board game. And this is also a shorter one. It's only 14 minutes. I think it's because I stopped caring about how fast I was going to talk. And it turns out, even though I had written like a 4,000 word script, it was actually I went through it quite quickly. There weren't a lot of off-cutting gags. So it ended up being 14 minutes or so. Once again, most of the negative comments are people just talking about the clash between app integration and not, so people just hating on it no matter what. I don't own Detective City of Angels, by the way. My friend owns Detective City of Angels. I haven't played it, which is the reason why I don't see a review. I just comment on it. So I actually don't have the full box. That is just the box top. I'm just tossing front and right because he let me the box top for the video. This is a very tight comparison review. I think it works. 14 minutes, I don't think it's very bad. I honestly don't have a problem with this review format. I don't think the Dice Tower would have had problems with this format. But the other thing about this one is that it gave me the opportunity to talk about app integration. So a good chunk of this video is me talking about the fact that I'm defending app integration. I don't have a problem with it. And I also took this as an excuse to talk about another game called Mask of Moai. This Mask of Moai game is another game that was sent to me from the Dice Tower. So I said I had about a couple years ago. I had this box of games that showed up. It had Dread Draw and Apocrypha and Alchemistry, and one of the most unusual games that was on this was this Mask of Moai, which is another app-driven game, which oddly enough is very similar stylistically, mechanically, not thematically, but mechanically to Chronicles of Crime, because it uses that app integration to look through things and describe what you see to other people. And I was planning on doing that as a review. I never got around to it. Now I certainly won't, but I decided that I'm going to use the opportunity, since they got me this game, to talk about Mask of Moai and do a review. The other thing that was kind of weird about this one, and it was probably extra paranoia, but unlike my reviews for First Martians, where the program occupies the entire page, and because the detective uses a website, you can see all my browser shortcuts, and I felt I didn't want to share what my browser shortcuts were, so I actually used the zoom function in my movie editor to try to zoom in so you wouldn't see my shortcut. Obviously, I can't do it all the time, so you can see my MasterCard and Drive-Thru-RPG and CBC and so forth. But I find it really interesting, by the way. I'm just going to say this now. When considering how successful the Dice Tower is, the Dice Tower doesn't have a Wikipedia page. But Tom Vassell does. And if you look up Dice Tower, it takes you to Tom Vassell. It goes into the entry to Tom Vassell. And I wonder what that says about how that operation works. So I ended there. That's my Chronicles of Crime Detective Modern Board Game comparison. It's the last video I did. It was in November 23rd. I got Tapestry around this time, and I did my review. With the overarching story of the latter being I probably at the end of December, early January, instead of players acting as a uniform, and it was a month before Tom basically told me he wasn't going to post it. He said, "Sure, no, thanks, no problem," and I didn't hear from him for 3 weeks. And then I sent another message going, "Hey, did you forget about me?" And that's when he came back and said, "Yeah, I'm not posting this." And then as we started talking, it turned into a conversation about my employment there, and that's how it ended. But it was kind of annoying that I had to constantly chase after them to post videos and then have them go back and go, "Oh yeah, we have a problem with this one." Like, okay. I was probably the only one he ever had a problem with. That's not true. He says, he mentioned in one of his videos that he had only let some guy go and had a conflict with another reviewer once. I imagine I'm number 2 now, and I kind of predicted that I would be. I kind of knew that I was going to rub that site the wrong way. I was kind of hoping for a bit more leeway, but as time went on, I found the ropes getting more constricting. Even with the number of reviews, like I said, on average, I felt that I was probably, Tom was number 1 by a large margin. I would say Sam Healy was second. Z Garcia was third. You had a few other people, the other contributors would drop pretty low. And I thought I was basically the top of that group. You look at the aggregate, I was probably getting the most views on that channel below those top 3. I think it came down to simply a personal reason, because there were objections to what I was saying. It had nothing to do and I sincerely don't believe it had anything to do with the length of my videos. I think the fact that my videos were over 15 minutes was an excuse. I think it came down to personal reasons about me directly. I'm pretty sure that if I played within the lines, but my videos were longer than 15 minutes, I don't think you'd have a problem. But anyway, guys, thanks. Hit the smash and subscribe and all that like button. This is probably, I wanted to do this because I'm not posting the original reviews on my channel. They're staying on Dice Tower. But that being said, I wanted to comment on them. So this was my commentary, 3 parts, 1 for each year, and then that's basically it. We're done. So that's it. Thanks, guys.